So the Celica has this issue of revving high. This episode we're going to be taking out the IACV, cleaning it, putting it back in, and seeing if we can get this idle to drop. Can you just video?
Oh! Freedom.
So the Celica has this issue of revving high. It actually bounces between 1800 RPM, 2000 RPM, and then it just drops back down to 1000, back up to 2000. It's really frustrating. It's actually heaps embarrassing in traffic. This exhaust also has a rust hole, and it sounds like a disgusting exhaust leak. I've checked a few vacuum lines. I haven't done anything. I've looked online, and apparently one of the most common things for these cars, or these engines rather, the 2ZZ, the idle air control valve gets dirty. All you have to do is pull it out, clean it out, put it back, and happy days. Now in most cases this is fine. If it's got an issue beyond just cleaning, it might need replacement. We're going to need to take off this air box so that we can take off this intake pipe so that we can actually take this throttle body off. That is our idle air control valve.
I'm removing everything to make it easier for me to get to. Sometimes we think that leaving parts on and trying to find ways around removing something is the better way. But often that takes longer and creates more stress in trying to remove a certain part with everything in the way and cutting or bruising our hands to do it. In a few minutes, everything is off and the IACV is easy to remove.
So air gets sent through this extra little hole here via the idle air control valve straight into the manifold to keep the car idling. The theory is that it's too dirty to activate properly, so we need to clean in there and we need to remove this so that we can actually get it to work. Coolant. Okay, so next step is to take out these 3 bolts. That was lucky. So you can see that these have actually rusted and corroded so much. I nearly rounded 2 of them. Now we have to be careful. There's a rubber seal here that we have to take care of. So I'm just pulling lightly on either edge. Look in there. I really hope that this does something. Inside here opens and closes. So now we're just going to spray in here, clean it out, put it back together and reinstall. I'm using this stuff. It's Subaru upper engine cleaner. There are plenty of other products. Usually use brake cleaner, but I have no use for this. I've had them for so long. What I'm going to do is just use it as a cleaner. This is actually meant to go through intakes and clean carbon buildup. Let's see how we go. So now we put it back. Seat it in there. Now with our unit complete again, we can put this back in the car.
So again, obviously everything goes back in the opposite order it was removed, and all of a sudden it looks like a car again. Make sure to put on all clamps and vacuum lines properly, or you may have made yourself an issue that wasn't there before. And if you see anything that looks worn out, replace it if you can to prevent any issues down the track. I replaced a few old vacuum lines and I noticed the air filter was very dirty, so I'll be getting a new one very soon.
Moment of truth. Did we fix it? As I said earlier, this issue isn't necessarily just going to be about cleaning it. It's very possible it actually needs replacement. After a drive, it's still idling up here. Looks like it needs to be replaced. We're gonna have to park this one for a minute because we need to order ourselves a new one. Alright guys, we're back with a new IACV. I'm so excited. Let's go, round 2. Alright, so coolant. Okay, so the throttle body is off again. Now we need to get off this IACV and get the new one on. Here we go again. So here's the two of them side by side. Of course, one's new. This is an aftermarket part. I'm hoping it would work. This is just off eBay and it cost $40. It also comes with a new seal. The old one, as you can see, is lifting as well and it needs to come out. If this seal fails, you can get coolant into the intake through your engine and so we don't want that. New gasket, new beautiful, clean, perfect inside. So we'll chuck the new seal in, fits perfectly. We'll get the new IACV on, make sure it's not pinching. I'm going to be putting a little bit of Loctite on these bolts, just a tiny drop. I'm only putting Loctite on because it had Loctite in the factory. Obviously they don't want this to come loose. Just want to tighten a little bit at a time, compress that seal evenly. Now you don't have to go crazy and round the bolts, you just have to be firm and the Loctite will do the rest. Time to put this back on the car. This revving issue has been so embarrassing. I'm really hoping this works. Here's something that it's doing differently already. Typically, you'll have a cold start, which is around 2000 RPM, and that's normal. And then it'll eventually come down once it gets to operating temperature. Before, the car would actually idle lower, more like just 1500 constantly, and as it heated up, it would just go up to 2000, and then it would start doing its bouncing. What we're watching here now, for the first time, although it's revving very high, is probably a normal cold start for an NA car. I'm gonna give it a minute. We're gonna see what it does. Hopefully we have a result. As I said, from inside, what I'm noticing instantly is that it was a normal high RPM cold start, and it's been coming down. It's actually really reassuring that it's doing this right now. All for sake of that little sensor. Here's the old one again. It definitely did get cleaned out, but this just wasn't activating. So now we're coming down even lower in the RPM. See you later, IACV. It definitely fixed it. It's working. It's beautiful. It's quiet. You have no idea how much that actually means. Now we're at just over 1000 RPM. Something I've noticed online with a lot of these Celicas, and this one as well, is that it takes a very long time to get to operating temperature. I'm not really sure why. I guess it could be worse. At least it overcools. You're not really worrying about overheating or anything. Because of that, the RPM is still just a tad bit high. Once we get to operating temperature, it should drop, but I don't know these cars very well. So maybe it stays at 1000, maybe it's 900. Boy, there we go. Look at that, under 1000 RPM. Finally. On that note, see you next time.